I guess the attention will probably be on Jeff Bezos. No, I mean, not because A, everybody knows Amazon, B, everyone uses it, C, he's never testified before, and B or D, by the way, he also owns the Washington Post. What do you expect lawmakers to do with Jeff Bezos today?
Yeah, Brian, I expect them to probe him a lot about Amazon's third-party marketplace sellers. The big question with Amazon is, does it leverage its data to take on these third-party sellers in its own platform and search? And so that's what they're going to be going after him for. But as you mentioned, culturally, I think a lot of these lawmakers just want to hear what he sounds like. Bezos's company is pretty old compared to some of his rivals. It's been around for a while. And yet, to your point, he's never been to Capitol Hill, despite the fact that he now even owns a home in Washington.
Yeah, and Richard, do you expect anything substantive to come from these antitrust hearings? I mean, these companies, while all very big, are also very different. I feel like if you got the CEO of like an oil company, a grain company, an airline, and something, you know, they don't seem to go together other than being, quote, tech.
Yeah, look, I think this is going to be somewhat of a circus. From an investor perspective, this real circus will start tomorrow night when all four companies report earnings at the same time. But it's true, you have a few common themes that run through these companies that the antitrust angle will try to focus on, specifically self-preferencing, i.e. supporting their own services over rivals, and potential exclusionary conduct, squeezing out rivals in some way, or determining the rails of their platform in ways that disadvantage their rivals. But having them all together is really unfortunate because there are very different issues with each of the four.
Yeah, there certainly are. And listen, Sarah, you and I have talked about it independently in the past. I mean, it's an antitrust hearing, so you do wonder where this subcommittee is going to go. But I wonder if there's going to be a focus on Google and Facebook and their control over information. They can argue that, you know, there's competition and they're not that big and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But they control a lot of the narrative with regards to advertisements and the news and sometimes disinformation that we see.
We'll expect conservatives to go there. Every time we've had these companies go to Capitol Hill, conservatives start talking about their control over information and censorship. But I wouldn't expect Democrats to go there. What they're really concerned about with Google is probably the same things that the EU has fined Google billions of dollars for. And that's its Android operating system, how it bundles it with software, a very similar thing that we heard from Microsoft years ago, as well as its dominance in both video and search. The thing, though, Brian, that I'm curious to hear about is how lawmakers and how the companies respond to the threat from China. Obviously, we're going to hear about TikTok today, how that's an example that competition can thrive despite the fact that these companies are so big. But to Zuckerberg's main statement and Tim Cook's, expect them to talk about American values and how breaking out these companies could hurt our positioning in national security around the world.
Yeah, and the only company really in China is Apple, and that's because they manufacture the majority of their phones there as well. I mean, Richard, listen, there is a misconception about size in America. I mean, even if you are a monopoly, monopolies are not de facto illegal. A lot of people, they hear the word, they think, oh, that's illegal. It's not. You have to do bad things, push other people out of the market, tie products together like Microsoft did with the Internet Explorer browser way back in the day when they got called out for antitrust. As you look at it, are any of these four companies, which, by the way, many of them might be monopolies, are they doing bad things, and do they deserve to be broken up in any way?
Right. So, you know, the notion of antitrust enforcement in the U.S. relies on the standard of consumer harm, which is extremely difficult to prove. And that's where the actions of the Antitrust Committee will stand or fall. Now, proving counterfactuals, for example, what would YouTube or Instagram be if Google or Facebook had not bought them, is also extremely difficult. And one of the problems I foresee for the progress of antitrust legislation is that it tends to get bogged down in the implementation and the technical details, which loses the interest of the lawmakers. And that's going to be one of the key issues to create some sort of sense of emotive urgency to take on these companies, because frankly, they are still widely admired and liked by the vast majority of American citizens.
Yeah, but is there any, and Richard, I'll follow up with you before going back to Sarah. Listen, outside of Facebook, because that's really more of just almost a perfectly optional product at this point, is there any consumer harm? And we all love Amazon, but the fact that they may block out small manufacturers, right? They suddenly create their own line of shoes or T-shirts or whatever it is, or Google's dominance in the online ad market or Apple's App Store. Do any of those, while amazing products, do we have any idea if maybe there could be better competitors out there? We just don't know because they can't compete.
Right. Again, as I said, the very difficult task and something that is likely going to be the focus more of a Department of Justice antitrust investigation is proving the counterfactuals. So what would have happened in the market had these companies behaved differently or had they not been created? Now, one of the arguments that I'm sure Google will put forward is their dominance of the search market is because they provide a better service. And the more search queries that they process, the more accurate their service becomes. So they would say they don't penalize us for being good at what we do. And that's going to be a very difficult argument for the lawmakers to counter.
Yeah, Sarah, these companies, I mean, listen, they're savvy. They've got lobbyists, PR machines. I think 3 of the 4 of them, maybe all 4, have already come out with, quote, studies that, show, look, there's more apps than ever, or look, consumers love us. I mean, this is going to be a charm offensive. It already is.
Absolutely. I actually think that the consumers love us portion of this is not what's going to be hard for them to prove. Everybody uses Facebook and Google, Amazon and Apple products. In fact, a lot of these lawmakers are buying ads to get elected on these services. I think the harder thing is definitely going to be proving whether or not these companies box out competition. And so expect them to come armed with examples. Google's going to point to all these different video providers that are thriving in the marketplace. Facebook is going to point, of course, to TikTok. That's going to be their biggest argument here in proving that they should not be broken up.